The sun blazed mercilessly overhead, turning the endless stretch of desert into a shimmering mirage of heat and sand. There was no shade, no respite, only the blinding brightness and the distant wavy line of the horizon that never seemed to get any closer. A group of 6 had set out 2 days earlier, confident that their desert trek would lead them to the fabled ruins said to be hidden deep within the wasteland. But now, with their water supplies dwindling and no sign of shelter or civilization, desperation had begun to set in.
Are we sure we're going the right way?
Donna's voice cracked, her throat dry and her eyes red-rimmed from the relentless wind. Luca, the group's guide, squinted into the distance, sweat streaking down his face.
We are, right? We have to be. The maps!
The maps are useless. And we should have turned back yesterday. Now we're stuck out here, and for what? Some stupid legend?
Nobody responded. They all knew Jake was right, but admitting it out loud would make it real, would make the creeping dread impossible to ignore. The wind picked up, stirring the sand around their feet, and the group moved on in silence. They hadn't eaten in over 24 hours, and their water was dangerously low. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the dunes, something changed in the air. The heat, which had been unbearable, now gave way to a biting cold. The vast empty expanse around them seemed to shift, as if the desert itself was alive, watching them, waiting. It started with the hallucinations. At first, they were small, a flicker of movement in the corner of someone's vision, a distant sound that couldn't possibly be there. Donna thought she saw a stream in the distance, sparkling in the moonlight, but when she ran toward it, it vanished, leaving only sand beneath her feet. Then the voices began. They were faint at first, whispers carried on the wind. They grew louder as the night wore on, until each member of the group was convinced they were hearing something or someone just out of sight. Luca was the first to break.
I can hear them.
He whispered to Donna as they huddled together beneath a rocky outcrop.
Voices. They're calling me. They're saying my name.
Donna stared at him, fear tightening in her chest.
There's no one out here, Luca. It's just us.
Luca shook his head, his eyes wide and wild.
No, they're out there. Watching us. I can feel them.
He stood up suddenly, his movements jerky and frantic. Before anyone could stop him, he bolted into the darkness, disappearing over the ridge. They never saw him again. The next morning, panic had set in. Without Luca, they had no guide, no one who knew the terrain. The sun was already rising, and with it came the heat, suffocating and relentless.
Luca's dead.
Jake said flatly as they packed up their meager belongings.
He's probably lying out there somewhere, half buried in the sand.
Donna glanced at the others, Mia, a quiet woman who had barely spoken since the journey began, and Patrick, a photographer whose camera now hung uselessly around his neck. They looked just as terrified as she felt. As they continued walking, the hallucinations grew worse. Patrick swore he saw a figure standing on top of a distant dune watching them. He insisted it was Luca, alive and waiting for them to catch up. But when they climbed the dune, no one was there. It wasn't long before Mia started talking to herself, mumbling under her breath about shadows that followed them wherever they went. She refused to sleep, convinced that if she closed her eyes, something would take her. 2 days passed, and the group's numbers continued to dwindle. Mia disappeared in the night, leaving no trace but her footprints in the sand, which vanished halfway over a dune. Donna and Jake were the only ones left, and both were on the verge of collapse. The desert had become a nightmare, a twisting labyrinth of dunes and wind, with no sense of direction or time. They trudged on in silence, each step feeling heavier than the last.
I can't do this anymore.
Donna whispered, her voice raw.
We're not gonna make it.
Jake stopped, turning to face her. His eyes were hollow, his face sunburnt.
What if there's something out here with us?
Donna frowned.
What do you mean?
Jake's hand trembled as he gestured to the desert around them.
This place, it's not normal, it's alive. It's been picking us off one by one.
Donna wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that it was just the heat, the thirst, the madness setting in. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that he might be right. That night, Jake wandered off. Donna woke up to find him gone, his footsteps leading out into the vast expanse. She called his name, her voice barely carrying over the wind, but there was no response. He was gone. Alone now, Donna felt the weight of the desert pressing in on her. The hallucinations were constant, figures shifting in the distance, voices calling her name, shadows that shouldn't exist. She knew she was losing her grip on reality, but there was nothing she could do. On the 5th day, Donna collapsed, the last of her strength spent. As she lay there, the sun beating down on her, she thought she saw figures approaching, tall, shadowy beings that seemed to shimmer in the heat. They surrounded her, their faces obscured by the glare of the sun. The last thing Donna saw before darkness took her was one of the figures leaning down, whispering something in her ear. Whether it was real or just another hallucination, she would never know. In the end, it didn't matter. The desert had claimed them all.